like any industry that benefits from making people feel bad about themselves is kind of sinister. Capitalism wouldn't survive if we were all like happy with how we looked, who we were, if we were all doing our inner work. Capitalism couldn't survive because we would just be content. You're the golden return, got the strength to carry on, Hello, beautiful soul family. Britt Cannon here, host of the Walk On podcast, the podcast where I try to demystify spirituality, personal growth and healing, and whatever else I feel like talking about. This week's episode is on diet culture. And I get into how the white supremacist, capitalist, cis heteropatriarchy, the program of those overlapping systems of oppression, how it works in our brains as far as body image and like standards of beauty are concerned. It creates an avatar, like a video game, it creates an image of perfection, whether it's Barbie or Bo Derek or Marilyn Monroe or Kylie Jenner. It's a falsehood. It's something that's not real, that doesn't really exist. Like, even those people I listed look different, look more flawed in real life than they do on the internet, And so we carry this image with us, and when we look in the mirror, we see ourselves only in comparison to that image. So if you think about, like, you're looking in the mirror, and over top of your body, or between yourself and the surface of the mirror, there's this projection of an image of what you should look like. So you're always coming up short. You're only viewing yourself through the lens, through the filter of this avatar, this illusion, this hologram of perfection. And that's why when we look in the mirror, we feel bad. It's not objective. We're never able to meet our body as it is. Like, we're never able to just look at ourselves as we are. We're always looking at ourselves through comparison. And that's just not healthy. It's not real. It's not fair. And like, your body on a spiritual level is your home. It's the physical vessel that your soul chose to inhabit in this lifetime, to carry you through this life. You learn lessons together. You're friends with each other. You're like, you're supposed to be in tune. Sorry, there might be a little noise as I just like move this microphone. You're supposed to be in tune. You're supposed to be connected. You're supposed to work together. And this image of comparison, this vibe of comparison, this lie of perfection keeps us at odds with our body. And that's just like a recipe for disaster. I get into eating disorders, my own issues with dieting, with like starvation and over-exercising, under-eating. And how it's been like a lifelong journey of mine, and how I think a lot of us are on this path of thinking that that's something we need to fix, like thinking that's something that we need to fixate on, that it's a personal failure if we're one size or another, or a personal success if we're one size or another. And it just keeps us like out of our intuition. It becomes an addiction. And like, to me, for my money, I define an addiction as any behavior that I engage in which serves to distract me from my necessary healing work in this lifetime. So I talk about how from the time I was 8 years old until I was about 24, I was dieting pretty constantly. And this dieting, this like mentality, which is backed up by diet culture, which is first and foremost an industry, trying to sell us diet programs, trying to sell us diet pills, surgeries, creams, potions, elixirs, clothes, like just everything. It's to make money. It's to say that you're not enough as you are. You're never going to be good enough unless you buy this thing. None of that is like inherently bad, although I would suggest that like any industry that benefits from making people feel bad about themselves is kind of sinister. But it's not to say that you're a bad person if you engage in those, or even that there's something wrong with you if you want to lose weight. It's just to say that like this is a thing that deserves to be unpacked, that is necessary to unpack if you want to feel happy and good and comfortable in your body and confident and at home, no matter how your body fluctuates throughout this life. I get into how our bodies are meant to change, from the second we're born. Actually, like from the second we're conceived, we are constantly changing and growing. Even what seems like stagnation isn't really stagnation. Our bodies are always on the move. We are ever expanding like the universe that created us. And that's beautiful. But we resist that change so hard to the point where like people who are pregnant are shamed for gaining weight while growing another human being in their body. Or, you're not supposed to get old. You're supposed to do everything within your power to appear to be immortal, and it's just not true. It's all a lie. And all it really does is serve to divide us further from each other and to divide us further from ourselves. I always say that capitalism wouldn't survive if we were all like happy with how we looked, who we were, if we were all doing our inner work. Capitalism couldn't survive because we would just be content. And this constant need to acquire more, to be more, to do more would cease to control us, and we would have to learn how to just be and be happy and be present. And so that's kind of what I'm getting at in this episode. I was just talking about something, but I kind of like lost my train of thought. Well, it just kind of sucks. Body dysmorphia is such a mind fuck. That's how it should be defined, a mind fuck, because you're just focused on your perceived flaws to such an extent that you don't see yourself as you actually are. That avatar that I'm talking about is basically the like perpetrator of body dysmorphia, right? We're saying like, this is not how I should look. I don't look perfect, so there's something wrong with me. I remember like throughout my journey, I started off when I was like looking for community in dieting. I was on like eating disorder Tumblr for a few years, which was way harsh and like not a good time. But through sort of, the grace of God, I connected with lots of other coming out queer people, a lot of other people who were struggling with their own eating disorders and like body image issues. And so we all connected at this beautiful, perfect time where we were all experiencing a sort of shift, being like, maybe it's not my body that's the problem, maybe it's my mind. And so all of us together started unpacking diet culture and realizing that it was something that was put on us. We were kind of victims of it, the way that our mothers were, grandmothers were, great-grandmothers were, and we just like torture each other with this weapon of the capitalist machine, diet culture. And as we started growing and unpacking, I started to understand things like how many calories you actually have to eat a day to be healthy. I started to understand how the BMI chart that gives doctors license to give fat people such a hard time at the doctors actually isn't based in like reality. Like it doesn't take into account the fact that some people's bodies, or let's say it this way, every individual person's body has a happy place. And that happy place can be within like 10 or 15 pounds, or maybe even more if you naturally fluctuate more than that. But that if you just like intuitive eat, if you listen to your body, if you give it what it needs, your body itself kind of falls into that happy place or that happy zone, and you don't have to work hard to maintain it. You don't have to starve yourself to get there. I used to lament and lament and lament. I would be on the treadmill crying because I couldn't get smaller than a certain size. I couldn't get less than a certain weight. And I thought it was like a personal failure. I was so frustrated because I felt like I was doing the most I could ever possibly do to achieve this impossible, seemingly impossible thing to achieve. And it was still a good 40, 50 pounds heavier than what my BMI chart said. And that was so frustrating and like heartbreaking to me. And so when I could finally release all those expectations and just accept myself, I get into, in a couple episodes from now, I get into radical self-acceptance and this feeling of like, it is what it is. This is what I look like. This is what my body looks like. Actually, I can't change the shape of my body with the way I exercise. Actually, I can't change my genetic makeup. Actually, I have no power over how much cellulite I have. And I have no power over the stretch marks I've accrued. Like, no matter what certain, lotions or creams or treatments or whatever might say, like, isn't it easier just to like surrender? Isn't it easier just to like appreciate the vessel which houses your soul as you move through the world? Isn't it just more loving to be accepting of how we look and who we are this lifetime? I grow ever more increasingly frustrated because I'm 34. I've been through many rounds of like what's in style or like what's on trend, what is considered beautiful. And I've seen the standards morph. I've gone in and out of style. I was told so much of my life that I was born in the wrong era, that I should have been like a Botticelli babe or like I would have been a great pinup, but like unfortunately now what's in is thin or whatever. And now we have this like mega impossible to acquire body image where you're expected to be skinny, really skinny, but with huge boobs and a huge butt and huge hips. And a lot of which, like the weight distribution, because you can't have any fat, right? You can't have rolls, you can't have a double chin. There's all these like stipulations, you like thick is in, but it has to be distributed correctly. It has to be like done the right way or whatever. And a lot of that requires surgical enhancement. And so you watch the standards change and you watch how the goalpost keeps getting moved back to a different, equally more attainable place. And I feel like you either keep giving in and you get addicted to the chase of maintaining or achieving that status quo. I always think of the Kardashians because like, look at them, look at them. They literally look like different people from year to year to year to year, and no shade to them. Like, I understand there's a lot of pressure in the patriarchal public eye, like your body and your image is the way you make money, and so there's a certain amount of like maintenance that has to go into that. Like, I totally feel for them in that regard, but I also think like, wouldn't it be more worthwhile to just be and find an inner reserve of confidence that's not so contingent on the way you look, and be a good example for people out there instead of making it trendy to be impossibly beautiful, like literally impossibly. Again, they don't even look like that. I follow a bunch of accounts on Instagram that are like Instagram versus reality, and they're not mean, like they're not bullying accounts or anything, but they'll just post like an image of an Instagram model, photoshopped to high heaven, like makeup, lighting, all that, and next to an image of the person candid in real life. And it's so healing, even to me as a 34-year-old person, to see that, to see the reality, and to just like remind myself that no one looks like that in real life. It's so helpful. If you struggle with this kind of thing, if how beautiful and perfect everyone looks on the internet really gets to you, I recommend following those kind of accounts just for a little dose of reality. So I don't want to shame or judge anyone who's like deciding to do things differently than me, but because unpacking diet culture has led me to such a beautiful place of body positivity, or I'll say has inspired me to commit myself to always coming back to radical self-acceptance, to viewing others through the lens of that self-love, which then extends out to the other and becomes a body positive movement. You know, unpacking white supremacy, unpacking capitalism, unpacking the cis heteropatriarchy has brought me nothing but joy, self-acceptance, inner peace, self-love, and like the ability to love others with even less judgment, even less expectation. And because that process has been so fulfilling, I just want to present to you, viewer, listener, and to the world through my own actions and way of being, a different route, a different path. You know, what if I told you that it's possible to feel happy with the way that you look, even though you know it's not perfect? You know, does that sound good to you? Does that sound worthwhile? What if I told you that our bodies were meant to fluctuate, and how we feel in relation to our body fluctuates? In the podcast, I really dive deeper into this, but I think of radical self-acceptance as like a horizon. So like you're standing on the beach, there's an ocean, there's the horizon line, and then there's the sky. And I think of like radical self-acceptance is like the horizon, right? That's like, it is what it is. My body looks how it looks. I know it's not perfect. I'm not like necessarily in love with it. I'm not thrilled with how I look every day, but I'm all right, you know, like I'm content. And then feeling self-conscious, you know, picking yourself apart, like feeling depressed about your body, and then being full on disordered about it is like deeper and deeper into the water. And then self-love is in the sky, right? Self-love, anywhere from like, you know, I look great today. It's like, I'm really happy in my body. It's like, I really appreciate what my body does for me. It's like, I'm full on in love with this vessel, and I understand its value and importance, and I think that I am a divine being, you know? And how my journey kind of like a little bit in the sky, like maybe 20 feet in the air to maybe just under the water. And that's where I fluctuate. And I used to really beat myself up for not feeling 100% in love with my body all the time, but I have come to learn that even that expectation is unrealistic, and that what is more helpful is a more loving, more moderate approach with achievable expectations. And so I challenge you this week to look in the mirror and find something you like, or look in the mirror and just try to imagine turning off that filter of the white supremacist, capitalist, heteropatriarchal programmed avatar of perfection. Try not to think of Kylie Jenner. Try not to think of anyone when you look at yourself in the mirror. Try to just see you for who you are. Try to see you as the only you that exists on this planet, and that makes you a hot commodity, honey. and see what that does for you, and carry that throughout your day, and just try to sink into that more and more and more with each step you take on your path in this lifetime. I thank you so much for watching. I hope that you'll click the link down below to listen to the full episode. Don't forget to share it. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. Tell me about your body positive journey. Tell me about your experience with diet culture, the good, the bad, the ugly, the overcoming, the struggles, whatever it is. I'd love to hear from you. You can follow me on Instagram at Brit_that's_it, or on walkon_pod for just the podcast content. And you can also check out my art and music channel, Brit Cannon, where I have original music and poetry. You can check out my website to buy my book, buy my merch, listen to me talk about other things, read my blog, blah, blah, blah. That's britcannon.me. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope to see you next time. Happy healing. Bye.